All right. So today on the podcast, Serial Killer Whisperer, Laura is going to go through some more BITTAKER tapes. And these are ones we haven't heard before. And she's got a ton more. And we felt these are pretty interesting to listen to. We're going to stop and discuss them. But that's what we're going to talk about today. So, but before that, Cindy's got it.
Before you guys go listen to the podcast this week, can you please leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We just started doing that recently, so we're excited about that. And you can also subscribe to our website at www.partnersintruecrime.com. And that website has weekly newsletters, emails, all kinds of stuff that we send out to the people that subscribe. You don't have to pay for it. It's free. But we like to keep
the blog.
As the blog too. We like to keep in touch with you guys. We want to hear what you have to say, especially on Laura's stuff and also Noah and Alcatraz. And we have a new podcast launching next week or the week after. We're not sure yet. It's called Deadly Roots with Cindy Bertrand Flores. Serial killer DNA. Is it DNA, or are you just twisted DNA, or not?
Or not. Find out. And you can actually find out also, if you want to, you can actually email us your name and a little bit of information on you. And Cindy can actually find out if you're related to a serial killer.
Yeah. Cindy's amazing. She's a genealogist. You might've seen her on TikTok. She's
related to a serial killer.
Anyway.
Me? No. Okay. All right. So without further ado, we'll jump into the Serial Killer Whisperer. Okay, peeps, we are back with Laura Brand, Serial Killer Whisperer, and she has a little of an announcement today. We just heard from her, and she gave us some really good news. So, Laura, we're going to let you give that news before we dive into more BITTAKER tapes. So, tell us what's going on.
So, I'm going to be signing with a new literary agent for the book. Yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations. I know it's been a long journey to find the right one.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So tell people, the listeners, what you've been working on in the book before we get going on to the tapes, and just kind of like give us a little taste of what's in it.
Oh gosh. Well, Cindy's writing it into a screenplay right now, but it's
I am. It's hard because it's a lot.
It's a lot because, it takes place in, the 79 with BITTAKER giving a lot of the narrative as well as the detectives. And then it's, my work with BITTAKER kind of jumping forward to 2018, 2019. So you're getting a mix of like these two time periods kind of coming together. But you get the full backstory. I do not really shave off any details about what occurred. I kept it very real. When BITTAKER and I sat down and we thought about how are we going to do this book, actually the piece of advice that BITTAKER gave me was probably the best piece of advice I've gotten. He said, write this book, because I said, how am I going to explain to my son one day, like who you are, like everything that's transpired. Mm-hmm. And he said, when you write the book, write it for your son. And he goes, because the story that you would tell your son is the story that you should tell the world.
Yeah. Yeah. You're telling the story as like the big scary monster, Laurence BITTAKER. It's pretty much he's the boogeyman.
Yeah. Halloween killer, pretty much. Yeah. Michael Myers.
It's also the poor victims, what they went through and how awful it is. And how, the whole point of this is so that you can understand what created this monster so that maybe you can prevent it from happening in the future.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a mix of everything, because it goes into, my in-depth interviews, my psychological analysis of both him and Norris. And there's a lot of my interviews with Norris in it. But then I wanted to really, give the victims a voice. I have chapters on each girl just by themselves, because I think it's important for people to know who they were. And these are all from interviews with their family members, their friends. And it's, I read a true crime novel and it's like, okay, this person died, but you know nothing about that person. And I didn't want it to be that way in my book. So I did a deep dive on each girl and tried to bring them back to life in a sense for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, the work you've done, and you always have so much respect for the victims. In fact, that's usually the reason you get all the discovery, is to really find out who the victims are, find their relatives, let them know what you're doing. that you're trying to help. So it's definitely the nexus of what you're trying to do.
Right. Right. And especially with, Cindy and Andrea still being out there, it's an
Yes.
important story to get out there and tell because they've been up there for, you guys know you've been to the fire road now.
Yep.
All these years.
Yeah.
Yep. And one of those recordings we're going to listen to talks about that fire road.
Yes.
So that's really interesting. And it's just, well, congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And what's the title of the book going to be? Do you know yet? Or are they probably going to choose it?
They choose it because I had a couple titles picked out and it got changed. So I'm sure it's going to get changed again.
Okay.
If I could pick now, I don't even know. I shouldn't even say because they're probably going to pick it anyway.
Yeah, might as well wait, and we can release that. And so everybody just look for that. We'll let you guys know when it's out there. We'll promote it on our website and all that kind of stuff, the podcast. All right, so let's dive back into BITTAKER. Tell us a little bit about what we're going to be listening to today.
So these are still my early on interviews from 2018, I think it was. And this is actually, I want to apologize when you play the tape because I said John. It was Phil who did the documentary Devil and the Death Penalty. It's on YouTube. Amazing documentary done on the case. If you haven't seen it yet, it's free right on YouTube. I've spoken to him many times. So I had just watched that documentary and I brought it up to BITTAKER because he actually went to the fire roads and you see him on the fire roads in the documentary. And I'm asking BITTAKER about the fire roads. And he goes into the whole story about, breaking off the lock and yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's listen to this first one. And this one's like about 8 minutes long. And if I, like we always do, if something that we want to stop and talk about, we'll just stop. Okay. All right. So hold on. What's that, an accent there? All right.
This is Global Tel-Link. You have a prepaid call from an inmate at the California State
sounds
Prison,
like
San Quentin, California.
Monotone. Both when you notice are monotone.
Monitored and recorded. To accept this call,
can you hear okay?
Or dial now. Thank you for using Global Tel-Link.
Hey.
Yeah, they cut the line again when they moved the food court.
Right.
They don't charge my connection.
I figured it was something like that.
Yeah. Okay, Malin, yeah.
Yeah.
No, she was never in the van.
What was the so I was watching that documentary. Oh, the guy's name is John Gibbons. You never talked to him?
No, it's whoever created this documentary. Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall it. It's possible somebody wrote me a long time ago, but
He might have used a fake name too.
yeah, he doesn't necessarily have to ever meet me. Just go ahead and research it and write it up.
Yeah. So he when, like in the documentary, he goes up in the San Gabriel Mountains and he goes to the fire road and he said that you had your own padlock and chain for the fence when you go in. Is that true?
Yep. Roy and I were up there looking around that area before any of that stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to ever seen any pictures on how the gates are held shut?
On what?
How the fire road, there's gates keeping you from going back on them, blocking access. You ever seen how they keep them locked?
Oh, yeah.
You have?
Like the ones on that mountain? Or in general?
One what?
The one on...
Out here, I think. I don't know. Let's say particular.
Not in person, but like I saw it on the documentary, the gate.
Like a pipe, a gate made out of pipe that swings around, and then a post in the ground, and then a steel box on the post.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The box on the post is really heavy gauge steel, half-inch thick or so, and it's got alternating lengths of heavy chain and padlocks. And that's what joins that post with the gate. So you have to stick your hand in through a limited access slot and use your key to undo one of the locks. And I happened to look in there and see that one of the locks had a broken hasp. The top of it was broken, so I took it off and the gate opened. And somebody had apparently, I'm not sure how they did it, but they maybe used a car jack between the gate and the post and forced them apart and broke the lock doing so. So I took that lock, went into town and bought a replacement lock, put it on the gate, took the lock with me to work and welded it up and remade it. Made a key for it. Took it up at another weekend later on and substituted it for the one I had bought and put on there.
Okay, so it's really interesting what he says there, because we got to see that gate.
Yeah.
When we were up there like a couple weeks ago when we went up to the fire road. And one of the things that's interesting about that is that the way they have that gate now is it's like BITTAKER proof now because of that.
It's BITTAKER proof now.
It's literally you have this box that goes around the area where the lock is. So you have like 2 layers of security that they have on, and you can't you don't even see the lock now. You can't even get access to the lock. You need some sort of tool that they have that only they have that will open the box to get to the lock to open the gate. And I'm pretty sure they did that not only because I'm sure a lot of people did that, broke that, but for him, I think that was like the first time they really realized that something like that was happening.
Yeah, they were the main reason. They kind of like you said, BITTAKER proved it. BITTAKER later admitted that the lock wasn't broken. He actually brought bolt cutters and cut that lock off. But this shows you, and there's a chapter in the book too. This first run they have up to San Gabriel Mountains of him showing Norris, these fire roads and them breaking off the lock. There's a picture of BITTAKER bending down and breaking off the lock. And the famous picture of Norris pointing at a rattlesnake and down in the canyon. And these were the pictures that were sent to Richard Shupman, who we talked about, last episode. Those are the pictures mailed in telling Shipman, like, hey, we're going through with it. Their camping excursion.
Like vacation photos.
Right.
It's just so bizarre how elaborate they planned all this stuff. They drive all the way up there. It's not close. It's not close to the beach at all. Like you have to drive,
it's way up there.
It's up there. So this is
especially from Redondo Beach. Yeah,
it's far. So it's like this is a whole elaborate plan that these people had.
Yeah,
that they were planning for forever. It seemed like.
Yeah.
Well, years if you count. Yeah, with them talking about it in prison. Now them going up there, replacing the lock, pictures, everything. Yeah,
I think that's the scariest part because it's like it's so methodical and it's so planned out, and then now they're going to go hunting for these girls.
Yeah,
this is terrifying.
Yeah, they had it all planned out. And then remind me again, when was this in the continuum of when you started talking to him? Was this beginning, middle, or close to the end?
Beginning. These were the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, so he seems very cordial with you at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
especially early on.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear. His tone is very kind of.
Were you surprised by that?
I was kind of shocked, like how he just was so easy to dive into. Like I could ask him anything and he would just start going into it.
Mm-hmm.
He downplays everything. And he was like
he hesitates a little bit on your question.
He does. You'll see him squirming sometimes. Yeah.
He really thinks. There's a pause and he's like, how am I gonna answer this?
Yeah.
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 All right, let's keep on listening. It's halfway through this one.
Wow.
So I was able to get in there.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of work.
Well, don't want to make it easy for people to get in there, so they
Right.
make it reasonably difficult.
Yeah.
So, and Roy has this story about, we couldn't get in and I broke another lock. I never broke the one in the first place, and it would take special equipment to do it at all.
Wait, stop for a second. But he did.
But he did. He actually said to the inmates when he was in Los Angeles County Jail, when they named him Pliers Bittaker, that's where the nickname came from.
Yeah.
He actually joked with them it should be bolt and cutter because he had used the bolt cutters to.
But
That's
why
a
would he
lot.
lie about that?
I know it makes no sense.
Maybe
Yeah.
he just didn't remember.
No, he remembered.
He remembers. He's like an onion. Like he says that, and then I'd be face to face with him and be like, "No, I use the bolt cutters."
Yeah.
Yeah. He remembered. He knows exactly what he's saying to you.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I just think that's strange, though. Like, why lie about something like that?
Well, he did know I was recording, so that could be a factor.
Maybe,
Mhm.
probably.
Yeah.
But why would he get in trouble for that? He's already in jail forever.
Well, he's trying to manage, his impression.
He's curating.
People have a-
He's
yeah,
curating.
literally.
Literally.
That's interesting. Okay.
Something else he made up.
Yeah, they were showing it on the documentary, and then they showed, I was confused about this part. He's on the fire road, walking up it, and he goes, none of it felt real until I got to this, and it was like a yellow box in the middle of the road, like a yellow fire box. What was it? Does that sound familiar at all?
Yeah, actually, I've got a photograph of that.
What is it?
There was a little open area about a half a mile or so back, and right on the hill, right beside that road, was a water tank, and some of that yellow box you're talking about. So that must have been the valves and connections where they could pump water up into the tank and take water out of the tank.
Yeah.
The last picture I have, the tank is missing, so for some reason, maybe they got rid of it. That was where we were parked at.
Oh, so the yellow box, that's where you guys actually parked?
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. That's why he was mentioning it. I was like, why is he mentioning that? But that makes perfect sense now.
I mean, I can totally understand where that filmmaker was talking about, because the same
You
thing
guys
happened.
were there.
Same thing
Yeah.
happened for us when we went up there and we started walking in. I mean, two different places, and you're like, and we were following the map that he drew for you. We had you on the phone, and it really kind of hit home at that point. Like, you're retracing these killers' steps on
Yeah.
the last.
The first time I went up there too, when I was walking down that road and I saw that yellow box, that's when it like hit me too. And you guys probably had the same experience.
Yeah.
You get to that point in the road, you see the yellow box and you're like, it hits you like, oh my God, this is where they parked. Like, this is where it happened.
It's so awful.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, I have I grew up next to a bunch of Revolutionary War battlegrounds, and it had that same kind of energy. You know, where like,
It's unsettled.
The residual.
Scary.
Lost souls, that kind of thing.
It's just very unsettling there and very scary, to be honest. Even though it was the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And we brought our development exec
And we had a ton of people with us.
And she's never been, to any of these places before. And she was like, this has some really sad
Energy.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you feel it. You can feel it on both of those roads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, okay. We got a little bit more of this one.
These poor girls. It's so sad.
Then they had like the two roads, like there was two crossroads right at that box. Like you could go left or right, like a fork in the road.
No.
No? Oh, so it was just a straight road, and you got to the yellow box, and that's where you guys parked?
Yeah. They could have bulldozed another road since we were there, but there was only one road, just kind of winding its way along the hillsides.
Yeah.
All it is a road to provide access to firefighting crews to get back into the woods and fight fires.
Yeah. I didn't even know what a fire road was. In the East Coast, we don't have it.
I just explained.
Yeah, no, now it makes perfect sense to me. Yeah.
Somebody's pulling on the phone cord.
That's why it was chosen, right? Because it was a private access road just for the firefighters.
Yeah, they're all over the mountains out here. Anyway, you want the phone, boss? Okay, I gotta go, and I'll call you. What's today? Tuesday?
Yeah.
Maybe Thursday. Otherwise, I'll see you Saturday.
Yes, I will see you soon.
Take care.
All right. So why did he choose those roads specifically? Did they have meaning? I know when he was a kid, he was in camp, or he learned how to be a Boy Scout or whatever in those kinds of mountains. Was it the same place?
Yeah, I think so. One of the main reasons he picked him was because, well, I know for especially Andrews Road, but also Cindy's Road, you just have to hike it up more. There's vantage points. So if you hike up to like the top elevation, you can see cars coming. So like say the cops were coming or another, car light was coming, he would be able to see it. It was more of like a vantage point.
we could see it because the way that it was, you could look down and you could see the line.
We were up here and the road came right underneath it. You could actually see it's a huge vantage point.
Yeah, that's the main reason he picked those two, which shows how methodical he was.
The methodicalness of this is what really bothers me, because it's like you have no idea what's going on inside someone's mind. Like this guy was so unassuming. Like if I saw him in the street, I would have never even noticed him. But yet in his brain, this is what's going on. We're going to drive up all the way to the mountains. We're going to find this fire road. We're going to make this crazy van and we're going to just go hunting for girls now. Yeah, let's go do that. What? Yeah. How does that even happen?
That's why it's so confusing that they were so adept at planning those two girls. I kept Lynette Ledford, they just dropped her in an ivy in front of someone's yard. It doesn't, and that was obviously later, correct?
That was the last, It
was like the last one. It's like, why did you ever ask him why he did that? Why they got so lazy?
Yeah, I said why. I later found out with the brother and the sister, and his excuse was just to mess around with the cops, mess around with the papers, like see what they would do.
Oh, they wanted attention.
But I don't believe that. Not knowing Bittaker, he was too methodical. I don't believe
that's
that.
That's what I'm saying. If he planned this for years, so why do you think they did that?
Mountains. Exactly. Well, I think it's because he wanted to torture, the kids of Burbank. If Lynette really was set up as a prank, what better way to victimize all these other kids that were at the motel than her being found? He brings her up to the mountain. She's not found. There's no horror there. He doesn't get to victimize, like 5 other people who are involved or just thinking they're pranking her. And that's Bittaker. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to victimize as many people as he could. He wanted to destroy innocence. Bittaker had been doing this for years. Nobody, he even said to me, he's like, nobody was finding the bodies. There were no witnesses. It was a perfect crime. So you look at Lynette and I'm like, no, you weren't messing with the cops. You were not messing with the press. This was intentional. You were too methodical to do that. Too methodical. You didn't even want to be on the cops' radar because you loved what you were doing. You loved that you were getting away with this.
Do you think it was more Roy?
No.
So wait, let's go back to this for a second. So you think that it's because of the kids that were hanging out at the Scott Motel? The Scott Motel was like the nucleus of this whole operation here.
Whole thing, yeah.
So all these kids that are hanging out with him, drinking, getting high, and doing all this stuff, at the Scott Motel. He really wants to torment them.
Yeah.
So he puts Lynette outside so then everybody knows about it. So now they're scared. Is that why?
Correct. And I looked on the map. So her body, where she was placed, is right in between Burbank High School and Verduga High School.
Mhm.
The exact midway point of both schools. And they had, this is so sick. I can't even believe this went down, but it was 1979. They told me her 16-year-old best friend was the one who had to come down and ID her. Imagine.
In the Ivy?
No,
I think at the coroner's, but yeah,
The coroners.
it's
Okay.
still like she had the coat hanger as a silver dollar around her neck. And a 16-year-old
that
girl
beautiful
had it.
little girl. That's so awful.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And that poor little girl, it's just really scary.
I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
All right. So what's this next recording? It's about 15 and change.
He's talking about some of his earlier crimes, and then he actually talks about like he was with some of the stuff he was mailing back to Norris and Shootman in the prison, and I think then I started doing a round of like fact check with him.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard this one before.
No, I haven't.
This is Global Tellink. You have a prepaid call from
Lawrence.
an inmate at the California State Prison, San Quentin, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tellink.
Hey.
You paid your phone bill, huh?
Yep. You still got more phone time?
Yeah, so far anyway.
Awesome.
May not be anybody else on the list this early.
That's awesome. Where was I? Oh,
I send you the. Go ahead.
there was one part I forgot to take notes about when you were saying, let's see. I guess it was the 1960 convicted robbery in Los Angeles. That was the church.
There was no robbery.
Burglary? Where was it?
It's a burglary and.
Oh, that was in October 1971. The burglary.
Yeah, I think so.
That was it, and that's when you were with your girlfriend, and you went to those office buildings in the church.
Yeah, she wasn't with me, no.
Oh. And so what did you take from the church? It was a lamp?
Say again?
What did you take from the church? It was a lamp?
It was a lamp, 2 electric typewriters, a set of bells. You know, the choir sometimes will each have a separate bell, and they would ring them in a song.
Yeah.
Stop for a second. Why would this demon go into a church and steal these things?
I have no idea.
I think he's a demon. I don't care what anybody says.
No, he is a demon.
I mean,
it's like,
this is,
you don't think he is.
You're going to ask the question I asked him next is just so funny because I'm like, why would you? I can't even make sense of what he does.
So bizarre that he would go to a church of all places. Okay, let's hear what he says next.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing to me that
There had to be 2 suitcases in a locked cupboard. And I took them, and I didn't know what was in them at the time. It turned out to be the choir bells.
Choir bells, wow. Did you ever use the choir bells for anything?
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
They sat in the girlfriend's storage cupboard in the basement that the cops didn't know about when I got arrested the next day. And I got them when I got out a couple of years later.
Where did you hide them?
Each apartment there had a little cubby cubby in the basement where they could use for storage stuff. The cops didn't know about it, so they searched the apartment where I was living, but there was none of it there.
Huh. That's funny. Yeah. The Louisiana girlfriend, that was from you crossing state lines to see her. That's the reason when you went to Louisiana, when you were arrested in Louisiana, that's because you had picked up that girl.
One of those, I guess, the hit and run, I don't know, one of the juvenile arrests. They send you to a processing center, which happened to be in Norwalk, California. And it's where they give you psych exams and so on to figure out what facility they're going to send you to. And I sort of intended to commit suicide while I was there, and they put me over in the hospital for a while, and I played like I was...
Is that true?
Yeah, is that true? He tried to commit suicide?
He pretended to try.
I was going to say, because he's a narcissist. Narcissists don't commit suicide.
He said, I pretended. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear the pretended
I didn't hear
part.
that part. Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah. He said, I pretended.
So he could get out and go to
the hospital. Yeah.
So manipulative.
Oh, wait until he says what he says next.
It's crazy.
Claustrophobic, so they left my door unlocked, and I was able to move around a little bit better than other guys.
He pretended to be claustrophobic.
Share the hospital section with the girls of this youth authority. They were on the opposite end of a hallway, and I managed to get acquainted with one who was passing notes to one that was there, and we started a relationship, and she contacted my parents after she got out, and I knew where to start looking for her when I got out later on, which is why I stole a car to go look for her, and I found her. And found her in San Diego. And
real quick, so this is obviously he's younger.
Yes, I meant to tell you guys. So I'm actually looking over his rap sheet that he sent me. So I was actually going by the crimes. I don't know why I'm actually kind of going backwards. So yeah, this is when he's much younger. I think he's around 18, 19, around this time. This is when he actually goes all the way to Louisiana with the girlfriend. Yeah.
Well, it said he was a youth offender. So at 18, would he still be in like a juvie?
Oh, maybe it was younger. Then it would have been, no, he went in early, but I don't think he got out until 18.
Mm-hmm.
His rap sheet is about 5 pages long total. Yeah.
That's that right there. Okay.
Right.
Someone has a rap sheet 5 pages long. Don't we as a society need to be a little bit more cognizant of these things? Because this is unacceptable. These girls' lives should not have been destroyed like this.
Well, at that point, what was on his rap sheet? I mean, were there violent crimes or were they just...
That was the thing. And that's something his lawyer pointed out at the trial. He never got caught for, and he's told me, like, he never got caught for his violent crimes. It's like he was more methodical with his violent crimes because he wasn't caught until later doing those. So all of his are property crimes that he was caught for. Yeah, it's strange.
And he didn't seem like he really even cared about the property. He was just doing it to do
choir bells. He stole, and he went back for the choir bells.
That's weird.
Yeah, yeah.
When was the first? Let me say that again. How old was he when he did his first violent crime? Do you know?
Yeah, he told me he was 17, 18.
Okay, so around at the same time. So he was
around the same time. He shot a clerk in the back. Yeah.
As a teenager. Okay, then we have that's a big problem.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at, I have his reports from Youth Authority, and they state, the psychologists state on them that, it pretty much says he's going to be homicidal. I mean, they're saying he has a lot of rage, he's unstable, he could become violent. And I don't know, I mean, they were back from the 50s, but it's like, if I had looked at those reports, I would have been like, oh my God, yeah, this is a monster in the making right here.
Yeah,
Something needs to be done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't looking at those things there. They were just.
But are they doing it now? Looking at these things? I mean, we don't know.
They are.
Hope so, but you don't
I think
know.
they are.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're tracking the mental health of these guys and stuff like that. I mean, the problem is like, what do you do? How do you treat a psychopath like that? You know, I mean, it's like you said.
Well, if you catch it early on, you know, research has shown you can teach empathy, and the younger you catch it, the better. Like the more you can teach it, it can be a learned behavior. It has to be caught young. Those have the best results. So there are preventative measures we can do. It's just at the time that we, you know, catch it or realize it.
Yeah. And then you have to have a plan of action for that person.
Exactly.
And then you have to follow up on it. And it's not like a one-step fix. It's like a long period of time of treatment. And I don't think they were getting treatment back then. You know, they had two in the 50s. It was in the 50s when he was in. When they did those reports, it was like 1954. Yeah, and that's when they still had a lot of those mental institutions where it's like you're either in prison or you're in mental institutions.
Yeah,
you know, there was no middle ground there.
Right.
You know, and they just drugged you up and they locked you away. And
but why didn't they do that to him?
They did. They did many times, so they just kept letting him back out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So he was getting put in mental institutions as well?
Well, that's he's just saying that he pretended he was going to kill himself.
That's because he pretended to kill himself. But
he did that a lot. Like if you read all of his psych reports throughout the years too, I mean, it looks like the DSM. Every diagnosis you can imagine. Because they were all so confused because he was manipulating everybody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was the intelligence part. He knew that if he said this, he wasn't going to be in a cell. He was going to be in a hospital.
Right.
Yeah. Well, crafty son of a bitch he was.
Yeah.
All right.
He's a demon.
She had a friend that was AWOL from the Navy at the time, and she was wanted for cashing bum checks in California. So the Navy guy said he had friends in New Orleans that would help us out, so we took off for New Orleans. We got stopped just outside of New Orleans by some small city cops who were used to kids running off during the summer, and so he stopped us. He actually didn't stop us. I saw him following us, so I just pulled over to let him go by, and he didn't go by. Anyway.
It's interesting. Did you ever have any more contact with her afterwards?
She actually showed up at the county jail when I got discharged, just for a little short visit. I couldn't remember her last name, but she had a nickname of Kitten, and I called her that.
And
apparently moved back to California. Yeah.
Were you able to find out that woman's name?
No. And you know what's weird is he wouldn't tell me any except for the high school girlfriend. I did track her down. The first girlfriend, the first rejection. I spoke to her. But he wouldn't give me that girl's name.
What was that like? How did she feel that she dodged a major bullet?
You know, when I talked to her, she was like, well, how did you find me, or how'd you know my name? And I was like, he talked about you until he was 70, like up to his deathbed. And she was like, that's so weird. And she goes, I had a box of articles about him under my bed. And she goes, my husband knows about him, my kids don't know. And I was like, you were in high school, like, how would you have any idea? She's like, I know. But she's like, and this is a part she told me that he had never told me. She goes, he used to drive me up to those mountains for days. And I was like,
oh my God, how scary.
Yeah.
Oh my God. If you think about high school boyfriends, like, how scary.
It's just weird. Like, he takes the victims to the place he took his high school sweetheart. Like, his first rejection.
Did she break up with him?
Yeah. She broke up with him because he stole a car and there was a high-speed chase that ended at her house.
Oh, he
With
went. He
her being
drove right to her
arrested.
house.
Yeah. It was on the front page of the paper and everything. Yeah.
Wow.
And then she told me that his adoptive parents, so he gets arrested for that. The adoptive parents actually came to her house. I didn't know this fact either. And they begged her to write to him while he was away because she was such a good influence on him. And she was like, no. She's like, I want nothing to do with it.
No way. Oh my gosh. So
Talk about the
scary.
one that got away.
Seriously. So then he would take the victims to the same spot.
And she was blonde hair, blue eyes, and she was Catholic and wore a cross. And then he made a lot of the victims wear a cross.
And you wear a cross.
I wear a cross. Everybody points that out.
That's crazy. And what else did she tell you? I mean, because that's a huge thing to kind of.
I mean, yeah, you got to look at the first rejection in the mother anytime when it comes to serial killers. So, I mean, when she told me that he drove her up there, I was like, whoa. And that's where he brought the victims and the cross and the blonde hair, the blue eyes.
Did he ever say that he was going to kill her too? Or was it she was like the one that he wasn't going to because he was dating her?
To him, it was like, quote unquote, his first love. But then I said, well, I dove into it because, they say psychopaths can't feel love. I go, well, tell me, like, when you lost her, what did it feel like? And he goes, well, it was like losing a book of stamps. And that's how psychopaths think is like, it's like having a vehicle. If you crash that vehicle, you might be sad. Yeah, I've given that analogy before, but you're not going to mourn for it. You're going to go and get a new car. And that's kind of how psychopaths or sociopaths see their relationships in life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not deep. It's like, oh, I like that because I had an attachment to it and it gave me use. I had a use for it. But there's no like deeper emotion behind that.
But you said that he was talking about her into his 70s. So it's like obviously she made a pretty big impact on her, on him.
Maybe because she rejected him?
I think it was the rejection. I think it's the rejection. Because when I talked to Alan Pass about, BITTAKER psychologically, we looked at the girlfriend, the rejection from the girlfriend, then you got the rejection from the mother. And then you also kind of have the rejection from the adoptive mother because she just cut him off. Like his adoptive father kept visiting him, like going to county jail, until finally the adoptive mother said, like, we need to cut him off. Like, this is just out of hand. I mean, this is like around the age of 30 where like he actually came and saw BITTAKER. Like the adoptive father, like actually did a lot for BITTAKER. When I looked into the reports, he did try with BITTAKER. I think actually the mother did too, the adoptive mother, from what I can see. I just think they just had this like, tiny sociopath that's just, out of control. And
so this woman kept like a shoebox full of all the articles about him underneath her bed.
Yeah.
What did she say? Why?
It haunts her.
It haunts her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so scary. I mean, I feel bad for the adopted parents. Can you imagine you adopted?
I wish I could have spoken to them because I can't imagine like what they went through with him. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like the break from his real mother is what could instigate all of this.
Well, that's what he always, attributed it to, was the break from his biological mother. Yeah.
And I wonder if that's like a commonality. Like, is it because babies need to, bond with their natural mother? And if they get rejected, but so many people are adopted. I mean, I don't see.
Well, I mean, I just saw a recent study out where they said that the roles that the mother obviously is the bonding and, the nurturing, and the father is there for play. The father is there.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of my dad. Yeah. Okay.
No, but it's true. Like the mother, that's the most primitive bond you can have is a mother and a child, and I mean, that's a primitive bond. And if that gets, disturbed in any fashion, whether it be neglect, abandonment, I mean, that's going to set you for life. Because it's like your first, biological bond. I mean, that sets you up for life. And if that's disturbed, I mean, we can see now, look at all the serial killers. I mean, typically, it is the mass majority have that primitive bond is disturbed with the mother.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of them, you said, I mean, both him and Norris have high intelligence levels. I mean, you think there would be a way to intellectualize their way out of being a killer, but if they didn't have those needs met at a young age when all that imprinting is done,
right?
I mean, because they say, especially they said males don't really mature until after 26.
Yeah.
Fully. Women do a lot sooner. But if those needs aren't being met, I think someone said, was it Dr. Alan Pass talking about the needs?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
the
talking
underlying motivation, the needs. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also say that the studies they've done where like you pick up the DNA even in the womb, like all the other stuff too. It's like they're just finding all this stuff out that just such a gentle mix of chromosomes and emotions and all these things that come into play that you don't really think. One of those things can go awry and you can end up like Lawrence BITTAKER.
I know.
Like, it's just so weird. But then you have people that have way worse situations growing up and they don't turn out that way.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, there's plenty of adopted children who don't turn out like this.
Exactly.
So
right.
It has to be something more than that. Maybe that's one piece of it.
Yeah, no, I think, our biological chemistry plays a factor, our nurture plays a nature and nurture. Like it's just a perfect storm that has to come together for something like this to happen.
And maybe it was his intelligence that figured out a way of getting away with this. And that kind of helped. Because he's very laconic and very casual when he talks about this stuff. And it's almost it's not like he's being braggadocious, but he's being braggadocious.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things going on there that he wants you to know, but he doesn't. He's like spoon feeding you. It's like that long pause, like, well,
it's he's very, very manipulative.
He wants to dangle you to have you come back more and more. Yeah.
Because otherwise you wouldn't come back and see him again. It's like that's a big problem. I would imagine you have with all these serial killers. They don't want to give you a lot of the information because then you're not going to come back.
They always have that fear that you're going to abandon them, and their mother or something. And that's like one of the biggest hurdles you have to get around is, reassuring them that should they give up some information, you're not just going to, abandon or leave them. And that's a huge obstacle you have to get past with them, which can take so much time. I mean, this is why I've been at it 10 years. Right. It's been a decade. Yeah. A decade of my life spending to do this. But
I know. It's insane.
All right, let's see. Let's listen to a little bit more. We have time for a little bit more.
Had some contact with her after the arrest. She went to some relatives up in the Northeast somewhere. Then we lost contact. It was a lot of years before I saw her again.
And when you said when you mailed the contraband to Roy, you had some license or something? What was that license?
Yeah, I had a business license.
Oh, so the business license allowed you to send in stuff to him?
Well, not per se. I just had a fictional company that was sending in this stuff, and the prison just accepted that. They didn't check into it or anything.
And you sent him food and...
Well, that was a separate thing. That was to Roy. And the other one was to shoot when I had send in some silver and some common gemstones and some hidden grass and certain items, just kind of getting started to narrow our way through that procedure. Roy, I sent just a big batch of grass later.
How did you hide those ounces of grass?
Well, once to Roy, it was just an empty tobacco pouch box.
I just want to clarify for some people in the audience that don't know what grass is. That's what they used to call pot and marijuana back then. So thought that's funny. Hearing that, it's just like grass.
Buy a pouch of pipe tobacco that comes in a little box. So I carefully unsealed the box, took the tobacco out, stuffed it full of grass, and actually weighed more than it should have. And sealed the cellophane back up with a hot spoon.
That's crazy. And what was the name of the Nicholas girl, her first name, that he raped when he got out? Yeah, that was Nichols. But that was in Colorado, right?
I think he did it in Colorado. I'm not sure.
It's crazy he was never charged with that. I mean, you're right, with the murders, they probably was like the last thing they're going to go after.
Yeah.
Wait, stop for a second.
They hardly needed it.
Was that girl killed?
No, she lived.
All right,
The reason I asked that right after about the contraband being sent in is because right when Norris got out, he owed Bittaker money for that marijuana that was sent in.
Yeah.
So he drove to his dad's in Colorado, and on his way back to get the money for Bittaker, and on his way back, that's when he raped that girl. So when I was like glancing over my notes, when I asked about the contraband, that's why I had asked about, because it was him getting the money, going back to get the money for Bittaker, that she was raped.
we have to beep out her name.
Okay. But have you ever spoken to that woman?
I did find her.
You did find her.
Mm-hmm.
Is she still alive?
Yeah, she's still alive,
Okay.
but traumatized.
I
Of
would
course.
imagine. I would imagine.
Jeez, I can't even.
Her car was broken down, and a teenager, and
This is in Colorado.
this is in Colorado. Roy stopped to help her fix the tire, and raped her.
Ugh,
And was
Mhm.
he was arrested for that?
No,
He was never arrested.
no.
So
Never
how do you have a
arrested,
record? How do you have
charged.
a record of her name and everything like that?
the
Did she file?
discovery. It was still. I mean, it was still in the discovery. Yeah.
So how did they have a report of it? It was just from Norris saying what he did?
I think so. Yeah, from the discovery. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You got to remember, Kristen. They were never charged for He was never charged on his assault on Kristen. And then I read that whole thing to you guys. I think it was episode 18 about Norris saying he's done like hundreds of rapes and was like have only been ever caught for or charged with only a couple. It's insane.
That is so scary.
Yeah, that's so strange. I mean, you got to go for the higher crime, obviously. I mean, when you go that, you know, if you rape or you kill, but still,
Ugh.
it's just horrible that there's no restitution or resolution for
Right.
all these women that were brutally raped by this animal. All right. Well, this has been interesting. I mean, we found a couple new things. I mean, every time I think we know more about this, there's all these other kind of stories. I mean, I can't believe how many things he told you. I can't believe that. And
so much, 400 pages worth.
when you talk
I
to Dr. Pass about this stuff, I mean, what are those conversations like? Because he's got to be dumbfounded.
Oh, he is. He's just like, he's listened to a couple of audio tapes from the killers. He's like, I don't know how you do it. You just get the floodgates just open, like every time. And and I was just I'm going through the audio files for you guys right now. And I haven't even uploaded my last 8 months of like all the death row transfers. I'm over 25,000 hours of serial killer interviews.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Say that again. How many hours?
25,000. And I haven't even uploaded the last 8 months of the death row transfers.
Wow.
Yeah.
25,000 hours of interviews with serial killers. Nobody.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's a few volumes of books right there.
Beyond. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have, I was just listening to some more of the Bittaker ones. There's one maybe we can play next week. where he does talk about, digging into the side of the cliff to put the trailer. Remember I had mentioned that with
Oh
Shootman?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been interesting. It's
It
always
has.
interesting to dig in and find out a little bit more about what your process was with him, but also a little bit more about his psychopathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
All right, Laura.
interesting.
We'll talk to you next week. Have a good
All right.
week.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Laura.
All right, bye.